I see there's 4 people here already. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to wait. My daughter is Bechoros, so I want to wait till she's awake um, before I actually make the Siyum. But she's getting up now. Oh wait, this is the Rashi. I didn't put on Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin yet, so I'll put on Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin to make the Siyum. I actually have 3 Siyumim I could make today. One on Shabbos, one on Ksubis. Those are both in the Bavli, and one in Maestros in the Yerushalmi. Speaking of the Yerushalmi, Moreno, one of the most respected Gedolei Ador today, Reb Asher Weiss, said that, there's only one person now, said that, can you hear me? Oh, there's 2 people now. Said that if, that you could actually listen to a whole shir of a Masechta online and to learn the Masechta. And the Satmar Rav Schusi Galena Val Kli Yisrael Amen felt that it was best for the Bechoros to make their own siyum, if at all possible, and only to rely on listening to a siyum b'di'evid. Beyond that, there's the question of listening to a siyum in person or over a telephone, or in this case on YouTube Live. Certainly listening just to a siyum on a recording, if this is a later recording, that doesn't fulfill anything halachically speaking. But as far as listening to a live siyum as it's going on, I think it's Reb Moshe. He said you could listen on the telephone, and Bisman Hazeh, I don't think there's much of an afkamina, even though some people say that the delay on YouTube could be a question lahalocha, but nonetheless, b'di'evid, if you have no other choice, you could fulfill the siyum by listening to this live on YouTube. So that's really what we're talking about. That's what we're accomplishing here. It's more or less something I'm doing as a service to the community at large. That I'm helping 4 or 5 people here, that they shouldn't have to fast. I would also recommend to give some tzedakah, to be poida the taanis. That's meaning that you, again, if you have the choilus, that meaning whatever amount of food you're eating today, that amount of money, whatever it's costing, $5, $10, that you're spending to eat today. I don't mean tonight during the Seder. I mean today, Erev Pesach, that you could fulfill that through that. Can you lower this a little bit, but keep it lower it down to 1. I'm listening actually to another CM on another YouTube channel live. Lower it down to 1. So they have a minion over there at this other YouTube. That I don't have a minion here. Our whole community is really, we don't have a minion. My daughter is here now, so we're ready to make the siyum. We have Baruch Hashem. We have 6 people here, so we can. I'm going to turn up the camera here. So 5 people. All right. Shalom Aleichem. Good morning, everybody. I got to adjust my tefillin. This is Rabbeinu Tam tefillin already. So let's get this set up nice over here. All right. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Mizenen du, Mizenen greit. Staf unteen. So this is the Gemara Shabbos. I actually finished it last week. I finished yesterday Ksubis and yesterday Maestros. So we could also make another siyum if new people come later. But anyway, so we'll just Gemara Shabbos. Obviously, it's about Shabbos. It's one of the longer Masechtas in Shas. I think it's the 3rd or 4th longest Masechta. Also, my wife is technically Bechoros. She could also listen to the siyum. So let's see the last Mishnah first. We'll learn a shtickle. So it says Mefirim Nedarim b'Shabbos, that when it comes to Hataras Nedorim. You can annul. You can be actually Mayfair. Is that Aaron Gropper? I don't know which Aaron G is. That's my friend. So anyway, Haforis Nedorim means that a husband, if his wife makes a vow, and he hears it, or a father hears a daughter make a vow, make a neder, he can have to arrange the tefillin to be proper. As soon as he hears it, he can say a neder is a vow. He can say that vow is nullified. It doesn't exist. And then there's another thing we call Hataras Nedarim. Hataras Nedarim is where you go to a chochem to be mater neder. You go to one sage, one scholar, and you ask him to release you from the vow because you regret the vow. This a man or a woman could do. Now, as far as Hataras Nedarim, the way they say, either you go to a chochem or you go to a bezdin. Bezdin would be 3 men, and it could be even a bezdin shel hadyotos. Could even be a bezdin. We had 7 people, now we have 5. It could even be a bezdin of people who are not necessarily the biggest scholars. And this is our good friend Ted. Welcome. So, so you have to make a shaila on the neder. You have to ask a question on the vow, whether or not this is a vow that you could even be released from. There has to be a valid reason to be released from the vow. And so that you would go to a chacham to ask, or you could actually have the bezdin be mater the neder as well. So as far as on Shabbos, to make Hataras Nedarim, to ask the sage or the court of the 3 lay people, if it's L'tzorech Shabbos. So for example, if someone made a neder not to eat, and that could include not eating on Shabbos. Well, you have to eat on Shabbos. It's not so. He could be mater the neder, so he could eat the cholent on Shabbos. This is a foikkenis or. You could shutter a window that's a temporary shutter. The shutters you can close on Shabbos. Moedin is a matlis. You could measure a rag because certain for an item to be what's called mikabel tumah, to be susceptible for impurity, it has to be a certain measure. And if it's too small, it doesn't count. It's not considered useful. And so then it cannot be mikabel tumah. But so you could measure the rag to see if it's able to be mikabel tumah. Moedin is a mikveh. Also, you could measure a mikveh to ensure that it has the 40 saw, the necessary amount for a mikveh, because you need the mikveh on Shabbos. And the question of the tumah could be a question on Shabbos. So there was a story in the days of Reb Tzadok's father, and also in the days of Abba Shol ben Botnis. They took an earthenware flask and shuttered a window. And also they tied an earthenware vessel with a reed. Because they want to determine whether or not the opening in the barrel was the opening of a Pesach tefach. Pesach tefach means the opening of a handbreadth, meaning from here to here it's about 4 inches. That is one of the measurements that we use in halachic measurements in Jewish law. So from this we understood they did these 3 things. They shuttered the window, they measured, and they tied on Shabbos. Now, tying a knot is one of the 39 malachos, but it has to be a kesher shel kayoma. It has to be a permanent knot. An impermanent knot, which is what they made, that is permitted to make on Shabbos, meaning you're allowed to tie your shoes on Shabbos. You're allowed to tie a gartel on the bekesha, make a bow, because it's not a permanent knot, it's a temporary bow. So that last statement of the Mishnah is what we'll turn to the Gemara about. It says, so from this story, we learned that they. So actually, let's see. Shepoku is some more. Let's see the whole story. Shepoku is some or but begemi. So right, the Mishnah says that in this story they shuttered the window with an earthenware flask. They tied an earthenware vessel with a strand of reed grass. So they did these three actions, and we learned that by virtue of the fact that these chachomim perform these actions on Shabbos, that there's no question of that these actions are not malachas. And not only they're not malachas, they're not even shvus. They're neither biblically prohibited nor rabbinically prohibited. So is mommy coming in? So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. So Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, he wanted to explain what is the situation that caused this to happen. So Hilkati Ketana Hoysa Ben Shnei Botim. So a Hilkati means an alleyway. There was that's what Rashi says. Let's even look at the Rashi. It's Kedai for us. We're really learning Torah here. We should learn with the Rashi. So Rashi macht Hilkati Katana Shvil Cotton Ben Shnei Botim. A small path between two houses. So that's what we call in English an alley. Betuma Haisa Sham. So there was Tuma there, and we understand the Tuma was the Tuma of Tumas Mace. So they were concerned for Gigas Seduka Munachis Al Gabon. And there was a cracked barrel on top of the two houses, meaning you had the alley, you had the two houses, right? And on top there was a broken barrel. And it was over the corpse that was in the alley. So before the person died, they shuttered the window with a tefiach. A tefiach is an earthenware flask. Bechoros and makeda begemi, and they tied the earthenware vessel to measure with a gemi, with a piece of reed grass. Because they wanted to understand if there was a handbreadth size opening in the barrel or not. Because if it was open like that, then it's not an oil, then it's not a tent, then it's not a shelter, it's not a cover. So therefore, the tumah escapes, and there's no tumas oil, and so the people pass under it are not tameh. And this is, of course, it's important for anybody, but particularly for a kohen, for a priest. And from their words, we learned, so from this story, we learn that there's these three things that you're allowed to do on Shabbos. You can shutter a window, you can measure, and you can tie an impermanent knot, a knot that's not permanent, that's not a kesher shel kayama. You're allowed to do these things on Shabbos lechatchila. It's not a question of you did it already, was it okay? No. You're allowed to do it ipso facto. So the last clause of the Gemara says like this, Ula ikla levei reish galusa. Once happened that the great Amar Ula, he was visiting the house of the Reish Galusa. Reish Galusa means the Rosh Galus, the head of the exile. It was actually a political position, even though quite often the Reish Galusa could be a Talmud Chochem, but maybe sometimes he wasn't. But in English they would call it the exilarch, meaning the monarch of the exile, meaning this was the Jewish leader, political leader of the Jewish community in the exile in Babylonia. Chazyeh Rabba bar Rav Huna. He saw Rabba bar Rav Huna. The Yosef Avna Demaya v'Kamoshachle. He was sitting in a tub of water on Shabbos, and he was measuring it. Amar lei. So Ula said to Rabba bar Rav Huna, Eima de Amrei Rabbanan Medida de Mitzvah. So when did the rabbis say that if you're allowed to make a measurement on Shabbos, it's only something You could when the rabbis say you can measure on Shabbos, it's only if it's for the sake of a mitzvah. The lav mitzvah miyamar. But who says you're allowed to? What mitzvah are you trying to understand for this tub? It's a keli. It's not a mikveh. So how could it be? Amarle misasek ba'almana. She says, I'm not doing anything here. I'm a misasek means I'm just playing. I'm just doing busy work. I'm not doing anything for any particular purpose, and the purpose of this measurement has no purpose. I see there's only 2 people here. We're at 7. I want people to hear the Siyum, but the fact is, we're actually finishing now Masechah Shabbos, so I think it counts. Hadron alach Masechah Shabbos v'hadra chalon, datan alach Masechah Shabbos, data chalon, v'nisnu shei Masechah Shabbos v'lo yisishnas n'nei minon, lo ba'alma l'dein v'lo ba'alma d'asei. Yeratzim u'fanech hadron alach Masechah Shabbos v'hadra chalon, datan alach Masechah Shabbos v'data chalon, lo yisishnas shei Masechah Shabbos v'lo yisishnas n'nei minon, lo ba'alma l'dein v'lo ba'alma d'asei. Hadron alach Masechah Shabbos v'hadra chalon, datan alach Masechah Shabbos v'data chalon, this is which we should return to you, tractate Sabbath, and you shall return to us. Our thoughts are on you, tractate Sabbath, and your thoughts are on us. We will not forget you, tractate Sabbath, and you will not forget us, neither in this world nor in the world to come. There's an idea that each of the tractates has an angel that represents it in heaven. There was a story by the Chavetz Chaim that there was he went to a certain Levaya, and the Malach Chagiga came to the Levaya, Azal Chazach, the angel that represents this tractate Chagiga came to the funeral of a certain man in Radin. So let's continue the prayers after for the Hadron. Yeratzim u'fanecha Adonai Eloheinu l'seinu. Shetei saraschol manaseinu ba'olam hazeh, u'zhei manu l'olam haba. Chanina bar Papa, Rami bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achai bar Papa, Abamari bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rochish bar Papa, Surchav bar Papa, Adar bar Papa, Dora bar Papa. Hariv Noadin Eloheinu Stiver Sarascha, Befinu, Befia Samcha Beis Yisrael, B'niyah Chalonu, Anachnu v'tzetzeinu v'tzetzeinu, v'tzetzei Kol Amcha Beis Yisrael, Koloni Yedei Shemecha V'leim Teisech L'Shma. Weiter Chakmeinu Mitzvaysecha Kiloilam Hili Bisamim Chukechel Man Loin Evoish Oilam Loyeshkach Kudecha Kivam Chisani Baruch Atwarino Oilam Deini Chukecha Amen 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 Salavoed Moidim Anachnu Fadach Adonai Eloheinu V'Seinu Shesamte Chelkeinu Miyoshvi Beis Medrash Lo Samte Chelkeinu Miyoshvi Koranish Anu Mashkimim the very servant Mashkimim L'Dvarim B'Telem Anu Meilam Ahim Meilam Anu Meilam Anu Kablam Socher Anu Meilam Kablam Socher Anu Ratzim V'Him Ratzim L'Chaylam Abo V'Ematzim L'Ver Shachar Shneim Avad Tolahim to redeem L'Ver Shachar Anshei Dam L'Yim Eloi Yechsi Yemeim Ani Avtach Bach Yeratzim L'Fnech Adonai Elohai Shame as our tunnel sign Masechet Shabbos came to Azrein Lahaschim Masechtas is for Machem Lasaimam Lil Moed Lamed Lishma Velasis Lakaimis Kol Divrei Salmater Sechabi Hava Schuz Kol Tanoim Ramarim Salman Chacham Yamad Li Lazari Shaloi Samu Shatar Mipi Zari Zari Ad Oilam is Kayim Bi Salach Lutan Choy Sach B'Shach V'Tishma Lecha V'Kitzoi Sehis Yichecha Kivi Yibri Mecha V'Yisif L'Chosh Neis Chaim Arich Yamam Mimina with Ois Lama Yitain Adinai Voich Samai Basholem. Can you put the sound up on that? Yeah, I'll do it. I got it. Because maybe he's up to the Kaddish already. I don't know. It sounds like he's still going. Mine is. It's funny. Stop it! You thought my CM went for a long time, 20 minutes. This guy started in the shul in Florida. I think 20 minutes before I started, and he's still not up to the Hadron. So again, if you have the Gelegenheit, there's it's better you could make your own Siyum. But the ever this is good enough. You can eat and drink and be happy. For tonight, we're gonna dine, enjoy a nice yontiv, have a beautiful Pesach, everybody. Don't forget, there's the letter from Reb Shimshon Astropolia. It's a big Indian to read. It's actually on Sefaria. Maybe we could read that together also live. We'll see what we can do later. Um, Very Kabbalistic reading that is supposed to be a big segula for the whole year to read it Erev Pesach. Um, and that we'll just do very quickly, but maybe in that you can even watch a recording also. But it's interesting that this place in Florida they have. It didn't say it because I want to hear the Kaddish. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. And please, you yourself learn. Like I said, you could listen. I think they said 90 minutes. You could listen to the whole Masechta Makas Yushalmi. There's someone did it online, and I know. Or even I would say if you pick a Masechta, let's say one of the that doesn't have a Gemara, one of the ones in Tyrus, Yadayim. It's probably good to sit down. What does it take? 15 minutes to go. It's 4 prakim to go through Yadayim. It's very interesting. Also, talks about monkeys, talks about the canon of scriptures, talks about Sadducees. You got a lot of interesting things there. But yeah, but it's better to do a whole Seder of Mishnayos or a whole Masech of Gemara. But maybe we could say I would say if you do Yadayim with some Meforshim or something, you probably could make a Siyum yourself too. But if you can't, this is good enough. Eat, enjoy, have a good Yontiv, everybody. God bless. How do I turn this thing off? All right.